There's only one thing that connects you to your golf club, and that's your golf grip. Choosing the best grip can be hard. And today I'm going to walk you through different kinds of grips, different sizes of grips, and figure out what best suits your game and your budget. But there's one bonus tip at the end that's going to save you some money and make your life a whole lot easier. I'm Matt, and this is the Bogey Depot. We're going to discuss 4 main things today. The first one will be grip sizes. The second will be grip types. Then we're going to talk about cost. And finally, we're going to talk about what's right for you. And at the very end, I'm going to give you that money-saving bonus tip that will also make your life so much easier. Grip sizes are easy. We start with standard. Standard's the standard. It's what's on 90% of the golf clubs that you pick up. You can go to a smaller size, junior, it's just a little bit thinner. Lengthwise, everything's the same. It's a little bit thinner and it's just for smaller hands. Some juniors like it, some women like it, but most people play a standard grip. If you find the standard grip a little small for you, you can jump up to a mid-size grip. And a mid-size grip is just that. It's just a little bit bigger, a tiny bit heavier. It just, makes it easier to grip the golf club. But if you're struggling, maybe you have arthritis or maybe you have giant hands, you may jump up to the next size, which is a jumbo grip. And I don't have any of those. I've never really used a jumbo. I've never seen much of a need to go above mid-size, but you can go to a jumbo grip. And then above that, we have this whole other category that could be this whole other video. It's the Bryson-style grips. Those giant things that look like, they're just big hunks of a tree slapped on top of a golf club. I've never used them. I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to those grips. Maybe someday I will try them out. I've actually hit them a couple times. They don't feel bad whatsoever. They're just a different style of grip. And one other thing we can talk about when we're talking about grips is you have your standard grip, which is, tapers down from the top of the grip to the bottom of the grip. But there's some other ones out, and like this is a +2 grip. And what a +2 grip means, when you put a golf grip on, you put one piece of double-sided tape on the shaft. You put some solvent on it, allows you to slide the grip on, the solvent dries, and the grip sticks to the club. Some people like a little bit thicker right hand, whether it's just more comfortable, they're snap hookers and they're trying to get rid of that. And there's a couple options there. You can either add some pieces of tape down there, which is what Scotty Scheffler does. He uses a standard size grip, and I think he used 3 or 4 pieces of tape on his bottom hand, which ironic is basically what this grip does. This is a CP2, and the 2 stands for simulates 2 extra wraps of grip on your right hand. You also have what is called a +4. So that's commonly called a +2. This is a +4. This simulates having 4 extra pieces of tape on the bottom hand. Is it exactly like having 4 pieces of tape? No. Can I tell the difference? No. So it's pretty interesting. So if you feel like your bottom hand it's a little narrow because these grips do taper a good bit, you can go to a +2 or a +4, and that's one solution to this. Or you can just have whoever's gripping it add a piece of tape or 2 to your bottom hand, or 3 or 4. So second, let's talk about different types of grips. Different types of grips. We have rubber grips. Rubber are the plain old grip that you have seen everywhere. They are the grip that, again, 90% of golf clubs use. They are just a standard normal grip. They usually have some kind of ridge in them. This is a Tour Velvet. This is actually a +4 here, but this is a Tour Velvet made by Golf Pride. This is probably one of the most used grips on tour. This is a Lambkin, which Lambkin has been bought out by Superstroke. So these are no longer made, but Superstroke has adopted them. I've heard some people say that the Superstroke Crossline grip, that's what this is called, is not quite the same as this old Lambkin, but it's the same concept. But you have the Tour Velvet, which is just the one that everybody uses. I would easily say 40% of guys on tour use that. We also have a rubber grip that kind of simulates the old wrapped leather grip, so it looks like it's wrapped. It's really not. This is the CP2. These are a little bit softer rubber than the Crossline and the Tour Velvet. So a lot of people, older people with maybe some arthritis or, a little bit of hand problems like these CP grips. They have a CP2 and I believe a CP4. The 4 simulates 4 reps of tape on the bottom, and they're just a little spongier, a little bit softer. The next thing that we can go up to when we talk about that is basically the same type of grip, but they add cords to it. And what the cord does is the cord they infuse or sew in cotton cord into it. And when you sew the cotton cord into it, what that does is it helps absorb some sweat. So if you're finding that your Tor Velvets or your Crossline 360s or whatever you end up getting are a little slippery, sometimes people like to go to cords, and it adds a little bit of extra tack when it's hot out or when there's a little bit of moisture, it rains a little bit. They aren't rainproof, but they do soak up a little bit of water in those cords. I actually find them a little bit more pleasing to use and a little bit more grippy than the regular rubber grip. But corded grips, the big thing with them is they're really tough on your hands. They'll rip golf clubs up easier. They'll rip your hands up a little bit easier. But once you get used to them and get calloused, I feel like they provide a little bit more grip for you. And there's a couple different kinds of that. There's this is a Tor Velvet, but it's just the corded version. There is a Z grip cord made by Golf Pride also. What you'll notice is if we look at the CP2, it's really nice and soft. And then we take the regular Tor Velvet, it's a little bit harder. And you go with the corded Tor Velvet and it's even harder. And then you go to something like this Z cord and it's really hard. This Z cord is really grippy, but it's really hard. It will rip your hands up. My kid plays these. I don't know how he does it. They're really durable, but man, they really rip your hands up. And then the final grip we have is another really common style of grip. And this is the multi-compound grips. Each brand kind of has their own. Golf Pride really kind of owns this side of the grip business. They own grips in general. Lampkin's used, but I would be shocked if Golf Pride doesn't have 80% of the grips on tour. But Golf Pride has what is called the MCC. Now, this is an original MCC. This is an MCC New Decade. As you can see, they've kind of changed the pattern and they changed what was inside of there. The New Decades are, in my opinion, a good bit nicer than the original MCCs. They're just a little grippier on the bottom hand. But why do they call them multi-compound? Well, they're corded on the top and they're rubber on the bottom. So you have two different kinds of grips in one. It allows you to have the grip with your glove hand and a little bit softer with your bare hand, which is nice. So these are becoming really popular. I know Rory McIlroy, Shane Lowry, those kind of guys have been using the Golf Pride MCC grips. There's a couple other different kinds of grips out there. There's a company called Iomic that makes a really soft rubber grip. There's, for a while, Superstroke had kind of a funky grip out. I think they've gone more traditional now, and especially since they bought Lampkin, I think they're going that way. So there's a lot of different kinds of grips out there, depending on what you like. Do you want something harder? Do you want something softer? Do you want corded? Do you want uncorded? And just go to your local shop and pick them up and try them out. That's the only way you're going to know. And, I would suggest putting one on, get one installed on a singular club and see if you like that. And then if you do, you can switch all your clubs to it. So let's talk about cost. There's some interesting things in cost. There's some like this Champ Key from Amazon. This is only like $3. They make knockoffs of like all of these grips in the Champ Key. Some are a little bit more expensive when you get up to their version of the multi-compound stuff. But for $3, I put these on my daughter's clubs when she was learning to play, just because I knew that she probably wasn't going to play a whole lot and I didn't want to go out and spend a whole bunch of money. They're a little bit thinner than maybe your standard Tor Velvet style grip. But are they going to be as durable and as tacky? I don't know. They don't feel bad, to be honest with you, but this isn't a bad little grip. And next up's kind of that Tor Velvet, Lampkin Crossline style grip. These are $6.50. So they're a really good bargain. They're tacky. They clean up well with just some soap and water and a scrub brush. Or I have this gecko spray stuff that I've seen on Amazon that somebody gave me that works fantastic to clean grips. But these are $6.50. And for the price, you really can't beat that. Sitting kind of in this in-between no man's land are these CP grips by Golf Pride. They run $10.50. They're nice. They're soft. A lot of guys really like these because of how soft they are. They're a pretty cool grip. And then there's what I call the 1250 group. And that's because they're all 1250. All of these, this is a Lampkin that was unfortunately discontinued when Superstroke brought them the UTX. This was my gamer until I had to switch to the Tor Velvet because you can't find those lampkins anymore. The Z Cord, the MCCs, they're all $12.50. When you look at the price of the Tor Velvet / Crossline regular at $650 being almost half as much as these, you see what a good bargain these are. But these do last longer, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So which one's right for you? Well, the first thing is hand size. Do you have small hands? If you have small hands, you want one of these thinner standard size grips. Do you have small hands, but maybe a little bit of arthritis? Maybe you want, something like this CP2. Do you have a little bit larger hand, or like I have meaty palms or something like that? You maybe want a mid-size grip. That's what I use. I use a mid-size grip. You could have a mid-size grip in a +4, which is what this is. So it's a little bit larger. It's a mid-size grip on the bottom end, and then it's 4 pieces of tape on the top end. Really, this is hand size and feel. This is all about hand size and feel. Which one of these feel best in your hand when you're swinging the golf club, in my personal opinion? Can they stop maybe the lefts and the rights a little bit? But until you get to that Bryson category, or maybe the jumbo category, I'm not even sure how much they really change that. It's more all about feel and how the club feels in your hand and how comfortable it is. Because once when you're talking about feel too, it's not just feel of how it feels gripping it. It's like the actual feel of the golf grip. For instance, this Z grip cord is really hard. It rips your hands up, but you get a lot of quote unquote feel. You feel the ball off the face a lot better with these because they're harder and the energy, kind of radiates through your body a little bit more. That can be great because you get good feel. It can be bad because you catch all those vibrations in all your joints. And the older I get, the more I don't like this. Even the regular Golf Pride Tor Velvet cord, it's a little bit harder. It's harder definitely than a regular Tor Velvet, and you feel a little bit more with it. You kind of get best of both worlds with these MCC grips. Then you have these MCC grips, and these MCC grips have the softer compound on the bottom and the harder compound on the top. That means where you're probably going to wear it. I know a lot of people wear their bottom hand a lot too, but it makes it a lot more comfortable to grip this softer, stickier rubber than have the cord. I'm a cord guy, but I really like these. I really contemplated if on the last set of clubs I built, if I was going full cord or if I was going MCC, just because these MCCs feel so nice. The MCCs, they last longer than your Tor Velvet. They cost twice as much. So I'm not sure which one of those, when you're looking at price and longevity, makes a difference. The cords are definitely going to last longer. These MCCs are kind of in the middle, and the regular rubbers on, the quickest to wear out. But if you're playing under 30 rounds of golf a year, these will last you probably a year or two, to where if you're playing a lot of rounds of golf, you're probably going to want to look at an MCC or a corded grip because, you can get through a year in these, maybe a year and change, depending on, if you're playing 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 rounds of golf. These will last that, so you can get a couple years out of them. I know my kid played about 100 rounds of golf. He ran through a grip in these Z cords in his 7-iron, but he hits a lot of those. That's what he uses a lot to practice with, which is not a good thing. You should be using different clubs, but he uses a lot of this, and he wore these out. But longevity wise, the more uncomfortable they are, the more time you're going to get until they wear out. The more comfortable they are, the quicker they're going to wear out. The CP2 style and the Tor Velvet style, they just wear out kind of quick. I would say the CP2 probably wears out a little bit less than the Tor Velvet, but it's kind of a completely different feel, and you'll understand why when you go to your local store and pick those up. So that's kind of how I would, decide on feel and longevity and price. Does it make sense to pay $12.50, or would you rather pay $3? And then there's everything in between. What's good for you? What do you like? Go get one put on. Go try it out. Go hit it. Play some rounds with it. See what you think of it. Put it on a club that you use a lot. Driver's not a bad option. Wedge, if you hit a lot of wedges or 9-irons or 8-irons or whatever that is, and get it put on one club for you and try that out. And now it's time for the bonus tip. And the bonus tip is, how do you save money? Well, you learn to put these on yourself. You can, if you have a vise, you can buy a little clamp that'll hold the shaft in for like $4. You can buy some double-sided tape and some solvent, and for $20, you can regrip these. A lot of the big boxes nowadays won't put these on for you, and I find that kind of BS if you buy a grip off them that they won't put it on. And you can also change grips. You can actually take these off without ruining them with a little tool. You can do a lot of things. I'll do a video of that in the future of how to regrip and how to take grips off and that kind of thing. But if you have a vise, it's really cheap. If you don't have a vise, you can buy a vise for like, I just bought another 5-pound vise to put on my workbench for $32 off Amazon. You can do that. You can buy a little one that screws down that's specifically made to hold a golf club shaft, and it just has a little lever on it. It screws into your workbench. You can buy one that just clamps onto your workbench. A lot of different ways. You can buy the gripping station like I have, which was like $125 or something like that. Or you can go out and buy the luxury $250 version, or you can just kind of makeshift something out of that little, thing that holds your shaft. I'll link that here somewhere. I'll put a picture of it here somewhere that you can put inside your vise, or some of these other vices that you can use that just bolt to your table. And for $30 to $50, all the way up to however much you want to spend, but you can regrip these all the time. And I really think that's worth it. I highly recommend that. Take your time, find the right grip for you, and go and hold them. That's the best thing I can say is go and hold them, get one or two installed on some different clubs and try them out. I'm Matt. This is the Bogey Depot. Hit them straight.